Good morning. Call the meeting to order for Planning, Zoning, and Agriculture Committee for Wednesday, January 18th. We get a roll call, please.
Mr. Featherling?
Here.
Mr. Miller? Ms. Weber? Mr. Fairfield? Mr. Long?
Present.
Mr. Swanson? Mr. Eckhoff?
Present.
Ms. Foster?
Present.
Ms. Andrade? Mr. Ashcraft?
Present.
Mr. Scanlon?
Present.
Ms. Turner?
Present.
Mr. Wheeler? Mr. Alexander Hildebrand?
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Next up is public comment. Do we have any public comment? I don't have anything for public comment. No? Nobody back there? Okay. We have approval of minutes from December 21st. Everybody got email with the minutes in it. Anybody have anything they want to change, or will they get a motion to approve? Okay. Miss Weber? Okay. Ms. Turner? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. I'd like to get a motion to move our zoning cases up to next. Just Dell will have to wait to do his building report a couple minutes. Get a motion to do that? Okay, Mr. Ashcraft, Featherfield back there. All in favor say aye. Okay, ready to go. I'll get a motion to approve ZBA case 22-19. Request for a special use permit in section 12199 C34 solar farm in the agricultural district on a parcel generally situated in section 8 of Limestone Township. The petitioners are Panazzo Farms LLC, property owner, and Jeffrey Road Solar 1 LLC, New Leaf Energy applicant. Okay, Tell.
Turn on number 3, please. Okay, this is a request for a community solar garden by New Leaf Energy for the property outlined in red on the map on the screen. It's owned by Panazzo Farms LLC. It's an 80-acre tract. They are proposing to put 5 megawatts of solar on the northern 40 acres of this property. It's located in Limestone Township at 1000 South Road, and I think that's 6000 West Road. Just to the west is the limestone quarry. There is another solar farm on that little property to the east up by 1000 Road, that 20 acres that is sitting up there. This went to public hearing on January 9th and was recommended for approval by the zoning board 5-0.
Okay. Any discussion on this? Ms. Weber.
I did drive by there and saw where you are, and that there was another little solar farm nearby, and it's not populated by hardly anyone. Was wondering if there's anything at all with dynamiting at Lehigh that affects the solar power, the panels.
That never came up at the hearing. I would imagine if there was a concern, the developers would have.
The developers would, okay.
Would have looked into that.
I would hope so. Okay. Anyone else have anything to discuss there? Okay. Get a motion. We got a motion already. So we do all in favor say aye.
We don't have a motion.
Well, I thought we had it. No? Okay. Colton first. Carol Weber second.
Yeah.
Okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, next up is ZBA case 22-20 is a request for a special use permit. Section 12199 C34 solar farm in the A1 agricultural district on a parcel generally situated section 24 of Bourbonnais Township. The petitioners are ALP Revocable Living Trust, property owner, and 2000 North Solar 1 LLC Leaf Energy applicant. Okay, can you get a motion on this? Okay, Mr. Scanlon first, Mr. Wheeler second. Or was that a question, Andy, or second? Second, okay. Okay, go ahead, Don.
This is another community solar garden proposed by New Leaf Energy. The property is owned by ALP Trust. Revocable Living Trust is the property owner. It's a acreage on that. It's a large parcel, around
These things are getting
116 acre parcel. It's outlined in red on the screen there. The road out front is 2000 North Road, which is North Street coming out of Bradley, and the road to the west is Skyline Road. They're proposing a 5 megawatt community solar garden on the northeast corner way up at the top on 40 acres of the 116-acre parcel. The access to the property would be on that little sliver between those two homes. There would be a driveway installed that would go back to the proposed solar garden. This went to public hearing on January 9th, and zoning board did recommend approval 5-0. We did have a letter of objection from the Village of Bradley. It should be in your packets, but if not, stating that it was adjacent to the Bravonas Township Park District's Willow Haven Park, which is not true. Willow Haven Park is actually not even on that map. It's on the other side of the railroad track, just off the south of the map. Said they had environmental concerns with soil limitations, but the Kankakee County Soil and Water Conservation District's Natural Resource Inventory Report gave it the green light and stated that they had no objection to this solar garden at this location. They also talked about prime farmland and talked about how solar farms harm the immediate area, reducing the quality of life of citizens and reducing valuable farmland. So that is on file, but the Zoning Board of Appeals voted to recommend it 5-0.
Go ahead, Mr. Eckhoff.
So which quadrant of that parcel is that going in? The back?
The northeast corner.
Okay, so that's to the right side?
Yeah, to the right.
Okay,
Up in the right, yes.
thank you.
So, Del, was there any public comment or anything?
There was public comment.
Did Bradley send a representative?
They did, and the Park District did as well. We'll just do them in order. Darren Stauffenberg, who's not a adjacent landowner but farms adjacent property, had questions and concerns about field tile and drainage tile in the survey process. Dave Zanani from the Park District stated that they had invested millions in the Willow Haven Park, which is a half a mile away, and questioned the visual impact the solar farm would have on the park.
Half a mile away?
Yes.
Okay.
Past a railroad embankment, trees, two houses. Yes.
I didn't think there was anything over there.
Greg Anderson from the village administrator from Village of Bradley submitted the letter that I did a synopsis of for you. John Grecius, Commissioner on the drainage district that the property is a part of, talked about farmland preservation and how the county should include the productivity index into its decision making for solar farms. It's not currently part of our ordinance, and probably won't be when we get to House Bill 4412. Jeff Humphrey, Bravonas Township's supervisor, he stated that the township has invested a lot of money into 2000 Road and was concerned about trucks destroying the road. He was reminded about universal access and that trucks can pretty much use any road they would
That's all
like.
taken care of with the road commissioner, so.
And there would be a road use agreement
Exactly.
And that has to be approved by you, right?
with the township.
Final.
No. Road use agreement is between the road jurisdiction and the developer.
No attorney involved in that?
If they want them, they can. They're usually
The county?
are. We are not involved in
The
that.
township could ask if they.
The only time we are involved, if it's a county highway, then our county highway department is involved.
Okay, anybody else have any questions? Nothing? Okay, it's all quiet. We had a motion and a second this time. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, I guess the motion carries. Okay, next up will be HB 4412
No,
discussion.
no, go back.
Oh, we gotta go back to the building report. Okay, get a motion to approve the building report. We don't have to vote on that.
Yes, you do.
Oh, we do? Okay. Colton, second by Mr. Fairfield.
You don't want the money.
Oh, let's see. We'll vote afterwards. Go ahead, Del.
All right, it should be in your packet, the monthly building division report for December 2022. In December, we issued a total of 48 permits with a value of $3.7 million and brought in revenue of $30,199. This is up, just for comparison purposes, December the previous year, 2021. We issued 51 permits and brought in fees of $18,378. So it is up quite a bit from the previous year.
Good. I had a question about the no new homes, huh?
Yes, there were no new homes in December.
And not even mobile homes.
A lot of this revenue and permits were actual small commercial permits.
Okay. So you haven't had the solar, only the one?
There were no renewables on this
No
one.
renewables,
No.
okay. Okay. Anybody else? No? Somebody's gotta have a question about something. No? Okay. Got a motion in a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carries, Del. You got approved. Okay, next up, we have the Stormwater MS4 program discussion. Is that gonna be you, Del?
Yes, you're going to see this on our agenda every month. It used to be there pre-COVID, and somehow it got dropped off. Part of our MS4 program requires us to have regular discussions about the MS4 program. The MS4 program stands for Municipal Separate Storm Sewer System, so it's 4 S's, that's why it's MS4. Okay, and what that is it's part of the Clean Water Act, and anyone who has drain tiles or storm sewers that dump into a state waterway such as the Kankakee River must have an NPDES permit that allows them to do so, which is the National Pollution Discharge Elimination System. They love their acronyms there. Okay, I had to write them down to keep them straight, which we have a permit, and to keep that permit active and in good standing, we are currently going through a review right now. Having this discussion to bring up the topic every month is required. So I'm here to ask, does anyone have any stormwater related issues they'd like to discuss? If not, we can move on, but if you do, it'll be here again next month. So
You mean as far as discussion of an issue or a problem, is that what we're discussing?
it can be, or it can be anything related to stormwater, and it's
It hasn't, oh, I guess I call it myself.
yeah.
It hasn't been an issue, this year, but I have a real problem with Rock Creek up just north of my place there on, I guess that would be Spruce Street, and then again down on, by Stauffenberg's place is down that way, and then around the bend north towards the houses on County Line Road. It always floods in there, and it's real bad. I'd say there's at least 2 feet of water going over the road there by the bridge by Rock Creek. So I don't know if that's considered storm water or if that's farm field
That's
runoff.
probably flooding and floodplain, not stormwater. If there's not a drain tile storm sewer involved, then it's not stormwater.
Okay, so that there is the pipes there.
I don't know that there is.
Okay, goes under the road. Okay, anybody else have anything? No? So I guess the next meeting, try to come up with something if you got an issue in your area or whatever that you're concerned about.
Or not, I have to bring it up.
Yeah. Well, we got it on the agenda, we may as well talk about it.
Either way.
These guys don't talk about anything
Either
today.
way.
Jeez, everybody
We
wants to go home.
can't be everywhere, so if you know of something that maybe we can do something about, bring it to our attention. Okay.
Okay. Okay, next up would be the decommissioning plan for Mantino Solar LLC.
Yes, this is you should have this in your packet. It's a decommissioning plan for Mantino Solar, which is located on the west side of Route 45, about a half a mile south of 9000 Road, up in the Mantino area. It was approved for zoning back in 2018. They're getting ready to, they've applied for their building permit, and this is one of the requirements, is to have this decommissioning plan in place before we issue the permit. And they also have to provide a bond that supports this decommissioning plan, and that is in the amount of $196,682.
Okay. The bond has us protected. These are all kind of all the same. We've seen, I don't know,
The
20 of
format
them.
is always the same. The numbers change
Yeah.
because
The
there's
amounts of
always-
acres and things get bigger and smaller.
Yes.
Cool. Okay, did we have a motion, a second on that one? No? Okay, Mr. Eckhoff is going to be the first. I got a second in Mr. Ashcraft. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Bill? All right. Now we're gonna go back down to the bottom, right?
Yes.
Okay, HB 4412, discussion.
Yes. Since we are talking about renewables, the state in its wisdom has decided to pass House Bill 4412 at both the Senate and the House, and it is sitting on the governor's desk, from what I hear, waiting for his signature. This bill greatly takes away siting power from local governments such as Kankakee County, limiting setbacks, heights, screening, noise, shadow flicker, decommissioning plans, road use agreements, and drainage requirements for these facilities. Pretty much have to rewrite both our solar and wind ordinance. I've already started on it. We're up to 16 pages. We're digging into it pretty deeply. It also alters the approval process, taking much of the decision-making away from the local community. And it does not, you know, it's in conflict, I don't want to say violation, but conflict of several other state laws, such as zoning law, where it does change the process, doesn't take into account a county's right to have a hearing officer. We do not have one, but some counties do. It doesn't even take that into account. It doesn't take into account a county's desire if they wanted to make them a permitted use instead of a special use, does not take that into account. And it does go against established zoning processes and practices, which we will get into. It also changes the requirements it needs for various supporting documents and review process. And here's a big one. In the ordinance or the statutes, a county may not adopt zoning regulations that disallow permanently or temporarily any wind or solar farms from being developed or operated. So the idea of a moratorium on them or restrictive zoning that would not allow them at all would be a violation of this statute. That's a big one.
Yeah.
So if you, yes.
Go ahead. Go.
It says
Great.
may not. It does not say shall not.
Well, we'll get to that, but
Okay.
Number one.
it says may not. I think the meaning here is shall not.
I'm one of
I'm
these.
so surprised.
Can,
The things that are coming out of the Springfield right now are just, it's like a bad dream. Because the whole purpose of us, we should have the right to say we don't want it, we got enough, we don't want it anymore. We had enough, and everybody would know, and they wouldn't come here anymore and want to try to get them applied unless they really felt they really wanted them.
yes.
That's why I haven't, when I've read through a lot of that, a lot of it's legal mumbo jumbo, but Dell breaks it down pretty good, to pretty layman's terms for us, and I don't know how we fight it.
I think the door is closed on that. But it's very clear that they talked to the development community when they wrote this and did not talk to any local governments when they wrote it. That's very clear. Absolutely everything is in favor of the developers here. So let's move on.
But even though, well,
I'm sorry.
you get ready with that, calm down with that clicker.
Yeah, got it. Very passionate about this, so.
Yeah, okay, he's gonna talk about zoning for a couple minutes. We should have, every county should have the right to say whether they want it or they don't want it. The people in the county should have the right to say that. There's no calls or letters or emails we can send this. Once it hits the desk, I guess it's the pen at 4 in the morning, huh?
I think the best you could hope for would be a trailer bill that would clean up some of this.
Catch it? Okay, Mr. Eckhart.
That's working so well other places.
Yeah, all the other.
Right, I am still waiting on the Ag Experience trailer bill from a year and a half ago. So, can we move on?
No, Colton Eckhart, Mr. Eckhart. had a
Just really
question.
quickly. So mainly this bill was just to go ahead and force all those counties that went ahead and said no solar, no wind in our county. Is that
Among
the reason
other
why this?
things, I mean, there was some things going on out there. I know of one county that has a half-a-mile setback from residential. You'd be almost impossible to,
For solar and wind?
for wind.
Oh, okay.
You'd be almost impossible to site one, at least in our county, and be a half a mile from all residential. There's always a farmhouse somewhere.
Okay.
Okay, in essence, you're disallowing them with a setback that large.
Yeah.
There's that. There are some stories of road jurisdictions holding them hostage over the road use agreements, counties with decommissioning plans that are absorbent and excessive fees. So there is some of those stories out there. Whether they're true or not, I don't know. So this definitely fixes some of that, but Kankakee County was not one of those counties.
So it pretty much calls out the counties that were 100% against it, and that's why they went ahead and created this bill.
Yes, I think so.
That's how I'm getting it out of the description.
They didn't ask me. Okay, so I don't know for sure, but
Okay.
that would be my impression of it as well. So
Who's responsible for pushing that through? Do you have the senator's name by chance?
no, I do not.
Okay.
Not offhand.
Pardon?
You can certainly get to it and see how.
Well, if it only applies to counties, that's okay, but they shouldn't be allowed to come in and put a windmill on the lot next to my house. Because them things, we got fall zones. If they fall down, they don't hit anything and all that. They're talking about taking all that away and put them wherever they want to, wherever they can fit one. It's Illinois.
It's not all bad. State still allows counties to regulate the siting of these wind and solar farms as long as our regulations are not more restrictive than the state's. Unfortunately, there's not much wiggle room there at all. So they really didn't give us any authority.
Can we be a sanctuary county?
Well, home rule county could be different,
Yeah,
but we are
home
not.
rule. How many more people do we need to get to home rule? 130, right?
And we have to now allow them in any district that allows agricultural or industrial use. Currently, we only allow them in the agricultural district. But it doesn't say agricultural district, any agricultural or industrial use. So they could be in our residential district since we allow agriculture on 20 acres or more. And if they were to look at their own state zoning law, they would know that agriculture is allowed in any district as long as it's the predominant use of the land. So in essence, it could be anywhere.
Okay. Nothing we could do about it. Oh, Carol? Maureen?
Thank you. Wasn't there part of this that was enumerating how to calculate the decommissioning amount, that it included the property value, the things on the property already, instead of making up new?
Not in this.
Not
no.
in this,
We'll get to decommissioning plans and how
Okay,
those
okay.
change, but
Gotcha.
no. Here's a good one. The project must be approved by the county board if the project is in compliance with the requirements of the statute.
Oh,
That is in there. It must be.
must.
Our standards, our findings of fact, our standards don't matter, which is in conflict with state zoning law. As long as they meet the criteria spelled out in the statute, the county board must approve it. So I'm not sure why it requires a public hearing. If what's said at the public hearing doesn't matter, I don't know why we're required to have
right.
one. So we can get beat up instead of,
Well, so they feel like at least they had a chance to say something.
so I mean, that's what they're saying. What our citizens have to say doesn't really matter.
Okay.
Okay. Also gives me, well, this is already in a law, not this particular one, but municipalities have siting authority for wind within their 1.5 mile boundary. So a 1.5 miles from a municipality, even though it's unincorporated county, and for everything else we have siting authority for, any other zoning case, we no longer have it for wind. Which brings up some questions as to who has building permit authority over those. We're not zoning them, we're not citing them. Do we still have building permit authority? It does not mention that. What happens if the municipality has different regulations than the county? I don't know. That brings up a lot of questions and none of them are answered in the statute. Next,
People's Republic of Illinois.
impact to the approval process. According to the statute, adjoining property owners no longer need to be notified. It says that we must put a notice in the newspaper of general circulation. It gives no guidance as to how far out that notice needs to be in or what that notice needs to say. The zoning statute does. It's 15 days and there's a whole criteria of what must be in that notice, but the statute gives no guidance whatsoever as to what that is. It says we must hold a public hearing no more than 45 days from the receipt of application. And all interested parties must be allowed to present evidence and cross-examine witnesses. all good in a democracy, but I'm not sure why if what they say doesn't, and their evidence doesn't matter. Okay?
I can't believe this.
And 45 days from filing. Very often, applications are filed with the county clerk, and when they come up to our office, we find out that they're not complete. Items are missing. So are we supposed to move forward with that application even though it's not complete? Normal zoning practice gives us 5 days from receipt to determine if it's complete, and then it's not officially filed till we've made that determination. This does not say anything about that. And what happens if it's not complete? I guess we move forward anyway. From the public hearing, the county board must make its decision no more than 30 days from the public hearing. So within 30 days, we have to have a PZA meeting, a county board meeting. Doesn't take into account the possibility of a meeting being canceled or no quorums. Does not say you must have a meeting 30 days from the public hearing. It says you must make your decision 30 days from the public hearing. It's a very tight timeline, and most likely we will have to have special county board meetings or PZA meetings to accomplish that, which
Are they going to
makes an
compensate you?
unnecessary burden on the county.
Are they going to compensate you on your budget for holding another public county
Well,
board meeting?
My budget strings are held by the county board, and so that would be a question for yourself.
Well, it's like $4,000 or $5,000 to have a meeting, I think.
Yeah,
that
and
right?
it gives no guidance. What if the county fails to make a decision? Is it automatically approved?
Put us all in jail, probably.
Doesn't say what happens if you don't make a decision. Also, another conflict with zoning law. Zoning law gives municipalities and township 30 days after a public hearing to formally object to a zoning change. Oh, did I?
Forgot to push the button.
Oh, there we go. Sorry about that. If the county board has to make its decision 30 days after the hearing, how do you fit in the 30-day objection period for municipalities and townships? You can't do it. That's a huge conflict. And also, there's no guidance on when does the public hearing actually end. We've had public hearings that's gone multiple days over the course of months. Once the governor signs this, we have 120 days to adopt our ordinance that's in compliance with it. That's a pretty short time frame when you think about having to go to zoning board, PZA, and county board.
State's attorney.
State's attorney review. 120 days isn't very much. And any change to the ordinance must go before the zoning board of appeals and have a public hearing on the ordinance change. Fees must be consistent with projects of a similar capital investment and cost. Did some calculation on ours, and ours are already in line with it, but we will have to make some changes because we charge a flat fee for both solar and wind. If we go back to our application fee and so much per acre, it comes out to about the same anyway. So there isn't a huge difference there, but the way we charge the fee will have to change. Some counties were requiring property value guarantees for neighboring adjoining properties. That would not be allowed under this new statute. Doesn't affect us. We don't have any of those. Requirement changes. As I said earlier, findings of fact, which is the county standards that every zoning case must meet, don't matter. So no longer required. The natural resource inventory report and the LISA assessment score is no longer required because we cannot require anything that's not in the statute. We cannot be more restrictive, and it doesn't mention that at all, which conflicts with the state law regarding natural resource inventory reports that says they are required for all zoning cases and land use changes. So clearly whoever wrote this has not practiced zoning. Yes.
Go ahead, Colton.
So just a question, what happens if we don't go ahead and do anything with our changing our ordinances? we don't comply in that 120 days.
I don't have an answer for you. Are they automatically approved? Can they just do what they? I have to talk to the state's attorney about that. I don't know.
It's a problem when you have a governor that wants to run for president.
Well,
He's trying to get as many
I
weird
think it
things
just
passed
sucks
as
that
he
you
can.
have people that don't know what they're actually talking about down in Springfield like usual. But so can we go ahead and send this to our state representative, what you have, and our state senator to go ahead and see if they would introduce a bill or a trailer bill to go ahead and change?
I know at least parts of this have already been sent to some of them.
Okay.
Mr. Wheeler has been. Wheeler has been working on that.
I'm sure, because we get a lot of that.
And that's where the talk of a trailer bill has came in.
Okay.
So that's where that's at.
Well, I say just don't comply. That's my personal opinion.
Well, it doesn't tell you what the
I would
consequences
agree
are.
if, depending on what the consequences are.
If it's 30 days in jail, I'm not really up on that.
I mean, if they're automatically approved,
Where's Chad? Bread and butter.
I would rather have at least some oversight and regulation than none at all. So, agricultural impact mitigation agreements, they're really banking on these, must be executed prior to the hearing. What if it's not? I've got a 45-day window to have a hearing from the time of application. So a completed application would have an executed AMA with it. What happens if it doesn't? It lessens and or eliminates setbacks that we already have in place. And all setback requirements can be waived by agreement with an adjoining property owner. That in and of itself is not bad. If the neighboring property owner doesn't care about the setback, then why should we? But it does lessen all of the setbacks. In fact, where ours on a solar farm, for example, requires them to be set back 50 feet from the property line, the new one would require them to be set back 150 feet from the nearest wall of an occupied dwelling. So could let them come all the way up to the property line if your house is set back a little bit farther. That in itself, though, if it's up to the property line, could affect how you might develop that part of your property over there.
Value.
And possibly the value, but we can't have any kind of value guarantees because it outlaws those. Limits fences to between 6 feet and 25 feet in height. Doesn't really change ours. Ours was 8 feet tall. So
25?
Yes.
Okay.
There might be some counties out there that was requiring 50-foot fences. I don't know. I'm not really sure about that one, but it gives no indication of what type of fence. Does it need to be a security fence? Can it be a picket fence? I don't know.
Agricultural fence?
Possibly.
Yeah. I mean, we just proved one that was
agricultural. Yes. Or something totally strange. Pilings? Is that a fence? I don't know. As long as it's more than 6 feet tall, I guess it is. Cannot require berms, though.
Is there sliding?
Oh, sorry. Maybe it's not a good idea that I actually do the advancing too.
Give Kelly.
Noise. Currently, our noise levels is 50 decibels at the property line. Now it must be in accordance with the Illinois Pollution Control Board's code, which I don't know what that means, whether that's more restrictive or less. I suspect less. I've not really dove into that part of it. Decommissioning plans and bonds, if required, doesn't require us to have one, cannot be more restrictive than the plan and bond required by the AMA. The AMA, Ag Impact Mitigation, requires a decommissioning plan and a bond and has since 2018-19. And as another level of insurance, the county has always required a bond and decommissioning plan as well. So we have to ask ourselves, do we still want one if it's absolutely required by the AMA? We probably do, but we can't be any more restrictive than theirs. Ours requires the full amount on day one. The AMA is a progressive scale that starts out at something like 10% for the first 3 or 4 years and works its way up. You don't really get into 100% coverage until about year 15 or 16. Another part of that too, we require salvage value to be included. They cannot subtract out salvage value. This clearly states that we cannot include salvage value.
Explain that.
Well, There's a cost,
You want to speak?
please. There's a cost to remove these.
Right.
And once you've removed all that material, there's a salvage value that material's worth that you can sell to get some of your money back from the removal.
Okay.
And in
Sure
many
stuff.
cases, that can be a zero sum. The salvage value is worth more than what it'll cost to remove it, so therefore they don't have to give us a bond at all. To prevent that, because we don't know what
30 years.
material costs and salvage values will be in the future, we required them to give us a bond for that amount anyway. We no longer can do that.
So do you have to go ahead and return that money back off of that salvage value of that bond then? For the ones that are already approved?
Anything that we've already approved, as far as I can understand, is not affected by
Okay.
this. Okay?
It's not
So
grandfathered in at all.
everything that we've done in the past, it's only moving forward once this is signed. But I will probably have legal look at that to make sure. Okay? There is some language in there is if they come up for a renewal or an extension, then this does apply. Where were we? We can require vegetative screening, but we can't require earthen berms. We've already required, we had a kind of a loose vegetative screening. It didn't make sense for us to have vegetation around if it's surrounded by farm fields. So we allowed the developer to give us their plan of how it would work. We did require it if there was a residential property next door. This doesn't really change that. We still can require the vegetative screening. No earthen berms. I don't know why there's a problem with earthen berms, but apparently some county somewhere must have required some large ones or something like that.
200 footer.
So it doesn't allow that. Are we still on the same one? Blade tip height. Currently ours is 699 feet that a wind tower can be. We will have to change that. There is no height that we can put into our ordinance because it is required on a case-by-case basis by them getting a no hazard to navigation determination from the FAA. So one could be at 400 feet and another one could be at 1,000 feet. We don't know until we get that letter on a project-by-project basis. So our ordinance will just say that they must provide us with that letter. So they won't necessarily be uniform. Impacts to requirements. EchoCat is still allowed and required, but the NRI is not. They must comply with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service's land-based wind energy guidelines and solar wildlife guidelines. Best I can figure that they meant for that to replace the NRI, but failed to change the Natural Resource Inventory Law to reflect that. Pollinator-friendly ground cover is still required, but weed and grass control plans and regulations are not allowed. They have to get a plan from DNR on how they're going to maintain it, and that's what they must follow. And that may also conflict with noxious weed laws. Okay. So our weed and grass control plans can't require those anymore. Need larger text up there, I suppose. Road use agreements are limited to reasonable cost and must be uniquely attributed to impacts and damage. It fails to define what reasonable means. And I've dealt with very unreasonable people at points in my life, so I know that people have different theories as to what that means. They are allowed but not required. We may very well be removing road use agreements from their solar ordinance. We will keep them in wind because wind does require changes to the road network. Solar does not appear to be more damaging to our system than any other particular use. I don't know who determines what is uniquely attributable, and I'm not sure what reasonable means. And here's a real big one, and I'm not sure why the drainage districts across the county aren't up in arms about it. Authorizes developers to cross or impact drainage systems under the control of a drainage district without agreement or approval. Simply really a promise that they will fix what they break is all they have to do. And it says they must repair them within a reasonable time after completion of construction. So if you have a 2-year construction period and they break it on day one, they've got 2 years to fix it. I don't know what kind of damage that could do during that period of time. And what's a reasonable time again?
Who's enforcing that?
The zoning police.
I don't enforce Illinois drainage law, so
Us.
that would be the courts, I guess.
We're the zoning police.
And much of that is in conflict with the Illinois drainage law, which did not change. Effects to our ordinance. For wind, we will no longer be able to require a maintenance plan, emergency services plan, proof of liability insurance, increased limitations to decommissioning plans and bonds. It'll reduce our setbacks. It eliminates regulations for outdoor storage, signage, clearance, anchoring, appearance, burial of wires. Long, thank you. I know that's a big thing for you. We will no longer be able to require them to bury wires.
So do they have to adhere to the Department of Transportation?
National Electric
standards?
Code and other state laws, yes, but we can't require them to. And lighting. And for solar, does change vegetative buffers, ground covers, and their associated maintenance plans. Interconnect agreements, we require them to show proof that they have one. With ComEd, can't require that anymore. Removes provisions for drainage systems and drain tile protection. Limits decommissioning plans and bond requirements again. Reduces setbacks. It eliminates our regulations for foundations, power and communications lines, signage, outdoor storage, appearance, performance standards, and the burial of wires and lighting. So, and that's my take on it so far.
When's that get, we don't know when it gets signed, huh?
No, I have no idea. I know I have 120 days from the time that happens.
I wonder if Chad knows about the drainage tile stuff, and
He does.
he does?
It was discussed at great lengths at the Farm Bureau meeting 2 nights ago, what to do and how it's gonna affect. And it was discussed greatly at the Farm Bureau meeting a couple of nights ago. I have some of his notes, you know, basically reiterating what Delbert told us. You know, you can't farm without drain tile. And if you disrupt the drainage system, we are living on a marsh that is drained by tile. You know, and there's no rhyme or reason for taking my rights as a person who owns a field with drainage tile. You know, if my tile goes through the next person's field and it becomes a solar field, and you disrupt that tile, then I can no longer drain. My farming is
Flood.
it'll flood. Yeah.
Yeah. The
So-
WPA put quite an intricate system in when they did a lot of that in the 20s.
That's not only the WPA, that the drainage districts exist to drain farmland so we can farm it.
Yes.
And that's throughout Illinois. Will County, Kankakee County, that every county I'm sure has a drainage district or more.
We have 52 of them. Yes, and there are many areas of the county would be a marsh without our drain tiles.
Correct.
Especially where I'm at up there in Mankato.
If you go back to the 1880s, 1870 maps that are in the recorder's office, you can see where they're outlined marsh area. They're not there anymore because of those drain tiles.
Yes. It's a problem.
Okay.
The whole
so-
thing is a problem.
Yes. And I'm not sure it's going to get fixed.
I think,
A lot like the other bills that have been passed over the past 2 or 3 months.
well, there's
And I think the
There's
same
reasons
guys
for it.
writing them, they don't often agree with whatever exists prior to these new laws.
yeah.
Including their own existing laws.
Correct.
Yes.
Well,
All right, just wanted to bring you all up to speed on where we're at on that.
yeah. I got it. Just every time we talk about it and I read up on it, I just keep getting like, where's this coming from? You know. But it must be a really good lobbyist down there for the solar people and the wind farm people.
This was similar to the cell towers. If you remember back in the 1980s, each county municipality was regulating cell towers any way they'd they'd like, and there was all kinds of regulations. And now there is a strict set of state guidelines to follow for cell towers. So very similar.
It also kind of follows. It also follows the laws that changed last year that allows any utility company to have eminent domain, because if they want to do it, they can do it.
do it.
And there's no defense for a property owner there. You have to pay to try and keep your own property.
Well, certain people would like to be able to say that they got this, assault weapons ban taken away, and they got the zoning laws changed so they can put solar farms and windmills anywhere they want to, renewable energy stuff everywhere, and they want to be able to say that they did that all in their home state. So that's why we're getting all this stuff crammed on us. That's how it works. So I have to wait to change it. Okay. Del, is that all you had on that then? Anybody have any
That's all
more
I have.
discussion on that? No? It's a pretty frustrating item.
Thanks, Del.
Okay, zoning training discussion.
Another
Del?
RPC tomorrow, we're having a discussion on solar and wind, so we'll talk after the meeting. Yes, if you recall, last month I have a 4-part series of zoning and planning training that will help bring the new members up to speed on how things work. This is part 2. It's kind of a crash course overview of zoning itself. Next month we will get into our actual ordinance, if we still have one. I'm not sure how that's going to play out. But anyway, how does the county get the power to zone? We get the power to zone from the state through Dillon's law, which states that counties and municipalities that are not home rule have only powers granted to them by law. So you can't just do what you want. As you can see, they changed the state law and we have to comply. So that is known as Dillon's rule. It was a judge back in the 1860s in Iowa that wrote that rule, and it still holds true today. Home rule communities, which the only one in our county is, well, City of Kankakee and Village of Hopkins Park are the only home rule communities in our county. They, unless specifically outlined in the statute that it does not apply to home rule communities, have the ability to go against state law in many cases. That talks about Dillon's rule. I think I've probably covered that enough, but it narrowly defines the power of local governments. Under that, the power is granted to the express words of the statute, private act, or charter creating the municipal corporation or the county. It's fairly implied or incident to the powers expressly granted. So if it doesn't tell you you can do it, you can't. So that's why zoning has some very strict guidelines to follow, because we must follow what is outlined in the state statute. What governs our zoning? Well, the Illinois State Statute 55 ILCS 5 Division 512 is the county zoning statute. I'd recommend reading that sometimes. It is great late night reading.
Yeah.
But that outlines the process of how to conduct public hearings, who to notify, when to do so, agricultural exemptions, and gives us our zoning authority, our local zoning ordinance that is derived from that state statute on what they allow us to regulate and not regulate and how to do so. And everything is governed by case law, because when these laws are written and then the courts decide how to interpret them. So case law fits into that decision-making process quite a bit. History. Well, it goes all the way back, zoning goes all the way back to the foundation of this country. Even in colonial America, we had some forms of zoning. But it really kicked in about 1916 or so in New York City, when they appointed a zoning commission and created the country's first standard state zoning enabling act, which was passed by many other states, which is where our state statute for zoning is derived, and was again done in 1928. which brings us to, by the way, those are all on the APA test, those dates and all of that, so.
Be a quiz.
So that's where zoning came from. Many landmark cases there. Planning. What is planning? Planning is the orderly, open approach to determining local needs, setting goals and priorities, and developing a guide for action. That's what our comprehensive plan does. And you'll probably be hearing a lot more of this in the future as we have discussions about updating our plan, because our plan was last adopted in 2005. It's getting fairly old. Planning is a concentrated effort by a community to reach a balance between the natural environment and development, residential, commercial, industrial, and the agricultural community. It's a guide. It is not law. It is a guide for officials such as yourselves and our citizens to use in making decisions that will affect the community. So whenever you have a zoning case before you, you should consult the plan and what the plan says about that particular piece of property and what the future of it should be. And if the request follows that plan, you should approve it. If it's in conflict with the plan, a no vote would most likely be appropriate. And change is always inevitable, so that's why we plan, because change comes. When our plan was written, for example, renewables were not a thing. They were not on the radar, and now they are. So our new plan should take that into consideration somehow, if we still have the ability to regulate them at all. What planning is not? It doesn't replace market forces of supply and demand. It helps shape and channel those forces, though. It is only a guide for action and implementation, which is why you should always consult the plan. It is not an instrument for immediate change. Normally you would write your plan and then you make changes to your zoning ordinance that help further that plan. These things take time, and it's over time. So a plan that's 20 years old is not horrible, but it does need to be updated. It's not a silver bullet. It does not solve all of your problems, and it's not static. You don't do it one time. You do update it periodically over time, and this is not just comprehensive plans, it's all plans. Our transportation plan gets updated every 5 years. Zoning is the tool that you guys get to use to meet the goals of that plan and to further the implementation of the plan. So what's a comprehensive plan? Because there's many different kinds of plans. It's a policy guide for physical development. Usually there's a map associated with it of the area, and it tells you what uses are allowable in each area. And zoning request is how those areas get changed to those uses. It is a vision for the future, and visions do change. They are general in nature. They're not usually specific down to an exact site, and shouldn't be, because that would be a development plan, not a comprehensive plan. It is not an ordinance. It's not law. They're dynamic and flexible. They should be reviewed periodically over the course of their useful life. And they are a legal basis for land use decisions. Many times when we are challenged in the courts by a zoning decision, the judge is going to ask, what does the plan say? And if the board followed their plan, they're in a good position. If they didn't follow their plan, maybe not. Planning process, it's multi-step endeavor. Should involve the entire community. Usually there's a series of public meetings and hearings, and it focuses on answering these 4 key questions. Where is the community now? That's where we look at existing land use, infrastructure, the culture, and demographics of the area. So where are we at now? How did we get there? We look at our history. Where does the community want to go? And that's where the public meetings come into play. Everyone gets to speak about where they would like to see the county to grow. And then the goals and objectives, how do we get there? And there's different portions of the plan, and I think that's going to be session number 4, where we talk about that, because there's different components to the plan: transportation, environmental, land use is just one of those components, but one talked about probably the most. What is zoning? It's a regulation of land use through laws which apply to specific designated geographic areas which are zones or districts. It's a police power that the county possesses that's enacted by the county zoning statute. And we have an ordinance that allows us to do that. It consists of the text of the ordinance and a map. Both of those are combined to create our zoning law. And they're typically regulated by districts such as ours is, and those are called Euclidean zoning, which goes back to a case back in Euclid, Ohio, where they did one of the first ones where the town was divided out into districts, and it was challenged. And that's why if it's divided out into various districts such as ours is, which is the oldest form of zoning, not your more modern form-based zonings, that is called Euclidean zoning. There's a little bit of history up there. Again, it goes back to 1916 with the actual laws pertaining to zoning as we know it today. And it all has to be within the Constitution. There's some pertinent quotes up here. I don't know if you want me to read them all, but we do have to allow for due process. We have to avoid takings. Regulations cannot be so restrictive that it would be considered a taking. If it is, then you have to compensate for that. And so I will send this out after the meeting, so you can read up on these and research them if you'd like. There's various case law pertaining to zoning and how it's applied. Again, Fifth Amendment taking, a big case on that was Dolan versus City of Tigard. Dealt with property rights, and it served to establish on the ability of cities and other government agencies to use zoning to regulate and regulations to compel property owners to make unrelated public improvements. Which is why when it comes to zoning, we can't put conditions on zoning. It says you must fix the road out front too, or you must donate to the local charity. You can't do that. Any improvements must be directly related to the impacts that zoning change will cause. We have to make sure that everyone gets their due process, guaranteed by the Fifth Amendment. It needs to be fair and equitable, and a reasonable relationship to public interest. If we're going to regulate, we have to tie it to a reasonable public interest that we are trying to protect. First Amendment, that comes into play in some cases, especially when it comes to signage, adult uses, the protection of freedom of expression and freedom of speech. That does come into play in zoning law. Illinois Religious Freedom Restoration Act and the Federal Religious Land Use and Institutionalized Persons Act, known as RLUIPA. We have many discussions every year at our conferences about these. We shall not substantially burden exercise of religion without compelling justification. So whenever you have a house of worship come before you, it takes it to a different level. Of course, fair housing as well. Anytime you have a group home, it takes it to a different level. If you're going to deny, you need to have a very, very good reason to do so. And we follow due process in public hearings, although I'm not sure that the new statute over there complies completely with that. So all cases must meet our standards, and those standards are known as the findings of fact. Over the years, back in I think it's about 1960 or 1957, LaSalle Bank versus Chicago versus County of Cook. The judge at that time said that their decision needed to be made based on facts, and decisions for zoning should be based on the same set of facts, which is our standards. So those known as the LaSalle factors have morphed into findings of fact over time, and they were at that time I think there was only 6 that the judge suggested that they utilize, and Sinclair Pipeline versus Village of Richton Park in 1960 further clarified and added some findings to it. So, and you can see the list there. I don't know if you can read it from here, but those are some of the suggested findings of fact from the judge at that time. But they have been refined over the years. primary goal of our zoning ordinance is to avoid conflicts between land uses. And that's why we create districts and group similar uses together. If they're similar uses, they're likely not to have conflicts with each other. And we try to keep incompatible uses in their own categories. Zoning has two primary functions. It establishes a list of land uses that are permitted in each district, and for each one of those districts it establishes bulk regulations being height, width, setback. So all of that is different in the R1 single family residential district than they are in the A1 agricultural district, because those uses have different needs. The districts are established on an official map, and we re-adopt our map every year, usually around March, and that is on file. The official map is on file at the county clerk's office if you ever need to see the official map. That one is signed by the clerk and the chairman of the board. When it comes to uses in a district, if it's on the list of permitted uses, it's allowed in that district. If it's not on that list, it is not allowed in that district. There is no variance for a use. If your use is not that you want to do on that property is not in that district, you must change districts. Then we go to our comprehensive plan and determine if that district and that use would be allowed in that area. Sometimes you have a row of houses, but you want to convert that area to commercial because it's right next to your downtown, or along a highway corridor that you really would like to see commercial growth. In which case, if one of those houses wanted to be rezoned to commercial for a real estate office or something, you would allow it because that would be consistent with your plan. But if your plan said, no, that area should stay residential, then you would not approve that zoning case. Okay? Each district has a set of special uses associated with it. These are also compatible uses, but because of some type of issue with them, they need further scrutiny, and a special use permit in that district is required to establish it so that the county board has a chance to take a look at it. There we go. Special uses. Yeah. And those kind of things would be, like, say, one example that's usually used is a commercial district, and a restaurant might be allowed, but a drive-through with a loudspeaker could trigger a special use because that might have more impact on the surrounding properties and neighborhoods. That's an idea. Solar farms are a special use in our district, RA1 district currently, because they could have an impact and needs to be looked at by the board. Huh? Table to farm are exempt because of the Ag Experience Act. Yes, they
Just
are.
got passed just recently.
Which was a year ago. Yes, we're still waiting on the trailer bill on that one. Because just like this one, it fell very, very short of understanding what zoning actually means and how to apply it. We already talked about bulk regulations. And most zoning codes, and ours included, have additional regulations that apply to all districts, those for accessory structures, access, parking, signage, and there's usually language about non-conforming uses, lots, and structures as regulated by the state statute. I already talked about there is, the zoning ordinance consists of the ordinance and a map. There's the text of the ordinance. That text can change when the county board would like it to change. Some of the zoning actions that would come before the zoning board and then to this committee and ultimately the county board would be an amendment to that text. A map amendment, anytime you rezone property, that is an amendment to the map, so it's an amendment to the ordinance. Special use permits. Variances, depending on the variance. Some variances, if they're minor, stop at the zoning board level and they are the final decision makers. Others come all the way to the county board. And planned development or planned unit developments would come before the groups, and any appeal to a zoning decision by me or my staff would come before you. Well, actually, those would come before the zoning board. They would not come to the county board. And I think that's where we're going to stop for the day. We'll get into our actual ordinance next month.
Anyone have any questions anymore for, okay, Ms. Andrade.
Ones from last meeting or this one in our emails, so we can, from the slideshow.
I think he's gonna put it in now, right, Del?
This one I will email to Kelly, just like I did last month, right
Oh,
after the
I didn't
meeting.
receive last month.
I'll resend it to you.
Oh,
It may have
thank
been because of the P in your
Oh,
email
okay.
address.
Okay, thank you.
So, yes.
That's it.
Okay, no questions, because you've been looking like you've been asked one. Oh,
I'm just interested to see how with the new law that came in with the wind and solar is gonna affect all the zoning, cause it's gonna be interesting.
yeah,
Cause it said something about residentials can also have that, so,
Yeah, we have to allow it anywhere that we allow agricultural or industrial use, not zoning, use.
yes.
And we allow agricultural use in the residential district on 20 acres or more. So we would have to allow it in the residential district on 20 acres or more.
So does that change any what's the word? Gosh,
We currently don't allow it in our residential district at all.
okay.
some of the towns have started to look at allowing them, but they have a fall zone problem where you have to be, it can't fall and hit a building, so it couldn't be high enough to, you know, work very good that close to the ground, so that's the only thing that keeps it from happening.
For wind,
Otherwise, you probably have one, everybody have one in their backyard, like solar panels on their roof, so.
Yeah.
That's all we have, Del?
that's what I have, yes.
Okay, how about anything for planning for number 6 today?
No.
Nothing for planning? Anybody have any old business? None? Anybody have any new business? We have none. In that case, Mr. Kirkster made a motion.
No, I did not.
Oh.
Not on the committee.
Oh, okay. You were?
I am not on the committee.
Okay. Okay,
Thank you.
Ms. Weber?
Thank you.
Okay. And then second by Mr. Ashcraft. All in favor, say aye. Aye.